Well, it is the third day of September 2024. As we come on air, the Union of Kenya Civil Servants has called off its planned strike. We will be telling you what government has undertaken to do, and also performing artists are coming out and they want Music Copyright Society of Kenya probed over misappropriating of funds. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mboya. Top in this live broadcast. "13 people perish, 3 others injured in a grisly road accident in Kericho. Acting police boss ordered to appear in court to clarify the whereabouts of missing Gen Z protesters. China and Kenya agree on SGR extension and the funding of other key road projects.
We are in the Azimio la Umoja coalition, and nobody can remove us from Azimio la Umoja coalition.
And ODM insists it is still a committed member of Azimio, despite its political dalliance with government. Thanks indeed for joining us. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Lucy Mboya. Now, we kick off this bulletin with a sad report here. At least 13 people have lost their lives and 3 others sustained critical injuries following a grisly road accident involving a matatu and a trailer at Pangala in Kisumu Ndogo area along the Londiani-Muhoroni Road Tuesday in the afternoon. The bodies of the deceased have been moved to St. Vincent Mission Hospital mortuary in Muhoroni, awaiting identification as authorities search for the driver of the trailer who fled from the scene after the accident. That report opens our coverage tonight.
Eyewitnesses say the trailer traveling towards Londiani lost control and veered off its lane, colliding head-on with the matatu, which was heading to Kisumu. The impact leaving 13 matatu passengers, including the driver, dead on the spot.
Hii gari ilikuwa natoka huku na Nissan ilikuwa natoka huku saidi ya Moroni, ilikuwa inaenda Kisumu. Nikasikia lori imekuja na nguvu. Sasa hii Nissan dereva mwenye alikuwa anaendesha Nissan akasema, "Guy, huyu mwenye lori anataka kutua aje." Deka kidogo nimeona hii lori imefinya Nissan chini. Mama mwingine akalia "Woi, huyu mtu anatua aje, tunapeleka watoto shule."
Tulikuwa nafuata hiyo lori ilikuwa inakuja na mbio sana. Sasa hiyo lori alikuwa anajaribu kuepa hizo mashimo, na kumbe alisha lose control. And kama huyo alikuwa amekula miraa.
3 survivors, a child and 2 adults, were seriously injured and are receiving medical care at Muhoroni Sub-County Hospital. The driver of the trailer who survived the crash fled the scene immediately and remains at large.
Chenye tunaomba bumps kwa hii barabara. Hapa hakuna bumps na hilo malori zinatoka huku juu ikikuja na mbio sana zikiteremka huku chini. Tunaumia sana sasa sisi, hata kama wenye wanapita hapa ama wenye watu wa magari ndogo ndogo.
This accident has actually been something that we have always been witnessing along this highway, and we want to appeal the government of Kenya today henceforth kwamba hii njia hii irekebishwe. Tumesikia inawekwa budget kila wakati na tumekuwa tukishangaa.
The bodies of the deceased have been moved to St. Vincent Mission Hospital mortuary in Muhoroni, awaiting identification by their families. Authorities have since cleared the wreckage from the scene, towing both vehicles to Kapsitet Police Station for further examination. A search for the trailer driver is currently underway as investigations into the cause of the accident continue. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Meanwhile, police in Wote Makueni are conducting an investigation following the grim discovery of 2 decomposing bodies in a rented house in Bangladesh Street. The bodies, identified as those of a man and a woman, were found after neighbors reported foul odor emanating from the residents, prompting them to alert the police. Elsewhere, a Form 3 female student in Kiptobit Mixed Day Secondary School is nursing serious head, hand, as well as back injuries after she was allegedly attacked by her boyfriend.
After 4 days of the couple's absence, residents of Bangladeshi in Wote grew increasingly concerned about a foul smell coming from the woman's room. Upon gaining entry, police found the woman's body lying face down on a chair bearing multiple stab wounds. The man's body was found hanging from the ceiling, raising questions about the circumstances surrounding their deaths. Neighbors, however, said the couple have had a rocky relationship.
Walikuwa wanakaa pamoja, lakini kila mtu alikuwa na nyumba yake. Na walikuwa wanasumbuana kila wakati. Juu mama alikuwa anafanya kazi ya nyumba, alikuwa anaenda na anarudi. Lakini mzee alikuwa anafanya tu kuhaso.
Nilikuja kwa plot na niliwapata tukikaa nikaona wanakosana.
Saturday walikuwa wanakorofishana, hata tukasikia watoto wakipiga mlango. Alikuwa anachapa huyo mama. Sasa kuenda kuangalia tukapata hata ni issue yenye hata haifai. Wakaanza kuita kiateka apate waunganishe.
The bodies have been moved to Makueni Referral Hospital morgue as investigations continue.
Sasa kama watu wamekosana, waende kwa mzee wa kijiji ama waende kwa pastor, wapatiwe counseling.
Irene Mchuma Odim, the Prime Edition.
From those disturbing reports now, let's take you to China, where Kenya has formally joined the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank after its ratification and ascension by President William Ruto at the bank's headquarters in Beijing, China. President Ruto says that the move will enable Kenya access concessional funding for key development programs, climate change efforts, as well as connectivity and technology-enabled projects. Here's that report.
Hello. Thank you. I came early. Thank you.
Yes. President William Ruto held a meeting with the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank President and Board of Directors Chairman. At the meeting, President Ruto highlighted Kenya's commitment to fund infrastructure projects and improve the welfare of Kenyans. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank has $100 billion worth of seed capital, with the bank targeting to direct 50% approval to climate financing-related projects by 2025. Earlier, President Ruto held a meeting with his host Xi Jinping, which focused on how to enhance access of Kenyan agricultural produce to the Chinese market.
It is also an important opportunity for Kenya-China Comprehensive Partnership Agreement, a strategic partnership that is based on a people-to-people engagement framed on programs that are mutually beneficial between our two countries.
On infrastructure, the two countries agreed to extend the standard gauge railway from Naivasha to Uganda, Rwanda, DR Congo, and Congo-Brazzaville that will connect the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. President Ruto says the dualling of Rironi-Mau Summit Malaba Highway is crucial in easing travel of goods and passengers to Western Kenya and eventually to the region.
I want to thank you for the conclusion of the program on Kenya's rural roads, the intelligence transport system that has now been concluded, and the progress that has been made on our technical vocational equipment program, Boster Dam, the Nairobi Northern Bypass, and Muthaiga-Kiambu bypass programs that have already, we've made very good progress, and hopefully we should be able to conclude.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Back here in Kenya, the Union of Kenya Civil Servants has called off its planned strike after government undertook to implement phase 2 of the collective bargaining agreement on salary increment. Public Service and Human Capital Development Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi said that it will cost government 1.5 billion shillings. The Union Secretary General Tom Odege said that the salary increment will be backdated to July this year. It's about 2 months back, and will enhance service delivery. Meanwhile, the Cabinet Secretary for Labour and Social Protection, Dr. Alfred Mutua, has announced a 6% minimum wage increment for Kenyan workers by October this year.
Today, I want to announce officially that the threat to go on strike is fully discarded, because our interest and the reason why we were calling the strike has been fully fulfilled, and now we are looking forward. And I want to make a request to the Minister that the CBA we are implementing today has come to an end, and beginning this financial year, we are allowed to open negotiations for a fresh CBA.
That collective bargaining agreement is being implemented. Was first implemented last financial year, within the context of the financial year 22, 23, 24, and is supposed to be implemented also within the context of the financial year 23, 24, 25. And therefore it is up for full implementation. Consequently, our engagement with the National Treasury, and I must thank the Honorable Tom Odege, who has been working closely with us in ensuring that every aspect of the CBA is honored by the national government. Therefore, the National Treasury has, which I may wish to announce, has agreed to provide resources for the payment of civil servant salaries as per the terms contained in the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, it wasn't only the Union of the Kenyan Civil Servants who called off the strike. Remember, the Kenya Union of Post Education Teachers also called off the strike Monday, that was yesterday in the evening, after a deal was brokered with the Teachers Service Commission. And what did that mean? It means that learning activities in secondary schools across the country have resumed. A spot check, by the way, by KBC revealed that on the first day of the strike, some schools had reported a low turnout. And by the way, the strike was called off just hours after some schools opted to send students home. Nancy Okware on the education beat.
Tuesday morning at the Star of the Sea Secondary School in Mombasa County, teachers are busy engaging learners in classrooms hours after they reported to school. With every flip of a page, they hope to salvage the time lost during the strike at the start of the third term.
Some classes are full, some others are not full, meaning we've not received all the students. Some parents have held their children back at home. We don't know the reason, and everybody knew that the strike is over.
In Bungoma County, teachers have reported to their workstations save for a few traveling from far. At Kibabii Boys High School, learners are in class and continuing with their studies, despite some having not reported yet.
We have a student population of 3,404. As we speak, 1,600 are already in school. And I'm very sure that today a very big number will turn up, because we have done a communication to the parents, and we know the They have started actually responding.
The script was the same at French School Kamusinga, with Form 4 students currently sitting for examinations.
As French School Kamusinga, we have a win-win because our students have been very good, very calm. They were doing their private studies while the teachers were away.
Learning is also ongoing at Namachanja High School and Chwele Girls High School.
Normalcy will have come back by tomorrow. And I'm happy to say that in the schools I visited, learning was going on, teachers were teaching.
Nancy Okwari, Prime Edition.
Into the corridors of justice now, the High Court has ordered the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli, to appear in court personally on Thursday this week after he failed to appear Tuesday in a virtual morning session and also in the afternoon in a physical court. While issuing the order, Justice Lawrence Mugambi said that Kenya is a country governed by the rule of law and not by the mightiness of status quo. As Ruth Mboya reports, Masengeli has been summoned to answer to a habeas corpus of 3 Kitengela missing persons and a contempt of court.
In what appeared to be a cat-and-mouse game Tuesday, in a mention for habeas corpus of 3 Kitengela missing persons, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli, was missing in action during the morning virtual session. The court was informed by his counsel that he would appear physically in the afternoon, though he was a no-show.
And for that reason, my lord, that's why we are seeking for 24 hours, so that we can put in a reply affidavit. We bring to you this documentation so you can interrogate it.
The Law Society of Kenya, led by its president Faith Odhiambo, and the petitioner's counsels at the court to issue a warrant of arrest against him, citing he had also violated the court order to produce the 2 missing brothers and an activist Bob Njagi in court.
If they want to come and treat us here to stories, who can tell the story of Bob? They have not been brought. Who can tell the story of the 2 brothers?
No, we're not here because of the reply of where the petitioners were abducted from. We are here because of the contempt orders for the first respondent.
Judge Mugambi has ruled that he appears on 5th September before the court's teeth can bite.
It will not watch at its authority, and the constitutionalism is slowly being whittled away. Those that deliberately ignore or disobey court orders must be ready for the consequences, and for the violation of the Constitution, even greater consequences.
With the families of the 3 missing persons crying out on their whereabouts since 19th of August this year, the Inspector General of Police will have to appear in person on Thursday this week to explain why he has been disobeying court orders. And a magistrate court has freed activist Boniface Mwangi and 4 others accused of publishing false information, unlawful assembly, and creating disturbance on 26 July.
These 5 persons were exercising the right to demonstrate. It is important that that right is respected and that right is not undermined.
Milimani's trial magistrate Gilbert Chikwe declined the prosecution prayers, citing they did not convince the court that they needed 2 more weeks to complete their probe in an exercise that has taken 7 days.
This issue of this application that was dated 26 July, I am functus on the application since I have declined the extension. So consequently, the respondents are hereby discharged and the cash flow should be refunded to the depositors.
Elsewhere, the family of a former employee of Treasury, Evans Chirchir, was shocked after it came to court to apply for habeas corpus, only to learn that their kin was at a Machakos morgue.
There were issues related to threats to life of Evans Chirchir. And the question that takes our attention is, were the issues related and surrounding the tendering process related or linked to the death of Evans Chirchir? Those are the issues that we want the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to unravel
is to inform the press and the entire nation that this is an urgent matter that needs to be investigated and expedited.
Ruth Wamboy for Prime Edition.
On to politics now. Homa Bay County Governor Gladys Wanga, who's also the ODM chairperson, has reiterated the party's strong commitment to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, despite the decision to work with Kenya Kwanza administration in a broad-based arrangement. Speaking at Kojwach Primary School in Kabondo, Kasipul constituency, Wanga addressed the Nyanza region's perceived hostility towards the government, saying that the area is ready to engage constructively and positively. She said President William Ruto's recent visit to Nyanza demonstrated a welcoming and open attitude from the Nyanza community, challenging misconceptions of animosity.
Our people have been mistaken for a long time. People say we throw stones, people say we are not hospitable people, but we are very hospitable people, extremely hospitable people, and the country saw it when we received the president here. I also must reiterate that we will continue to build our party. We will continue to strengthen our party. And we are in the Azimio la Umoja coalition. And nobody can remove us from Azimio la Umoja coalition. Nobody can remove us from there. And our leader is Raila Amolo Odinga. We are in the minority. Our members of parliament will continue with their duties of oversighting the government, as should be the case.
ODM is in Azimio. That's the story that brings us to our first break here on Prime Edition. Don't go away. We'll be back shortly.
Siamini. Amini usiamini, Holiday Bonanza ni ya kila mtu na zawadi zitakufikia mahali popote. Dial *570#, chagua option 4 na zawadi kibao zinakungoja. Ikiwa kila wiki kuna 250,000 Kenyan shillings za kushindaniwa. Ni *570# pekee, option 4, tushinde.
Nilikwambia unitumie picha ya Redes Oniri. Atito ni Rede. Hata ukiangalia vizuri kabisa Atito ni musishana.
Agupi ngitani tao sahandi. Achiga Kenya saa yone.
Aiwe, you're too close, Akibu.
Nimo is back from Mozambique and she'll be bringing us the day's business, and a little later, Okoch will be in charge of the day's sports. Now, Warrant Officer 1 retired Patrick Njagi served in the United Nations Peace Mission in Sierra Leone under the command of Lieutenant General Daniel Opande in 2002 that helped to end the civil war there. Njagi, who joined the Kenya Defence Forces initially as an education instructor, served the army for 33 years. Ben Troy Njue paid him a visit at his home in Nanyuki and filed the following report on this week's edition of Military Tales.
On this episode of Military Tales, we travel to the border of Laikipia and Meru counties for a sit-down with an army veteran who served for 33 years.
Hi, how are you, sir? Yes.
Karibu sana. Karibuni sana. Hii area inaitwa Moroga. Yeah, it's a village within Nanyuki. Like this place. Yes, that is where we are. I'm Jaggy Patrick. Jaggy Patrick was born in a village back in Tharakanithi. Back in 1956, 27th February, it was quite a big family of 11. 1963, that is when I started class 1. That time, we didn't have nursery schools. And I remember in standard 1, it's when we got independence. We were given flags to wave and a badge of independence. I remember. I went to Nyeri Secondary School where I did my Form 4, 1975.
For the love of the military, Njagi tried out his luck immediately after high school.
I tried my feet in the Air Force, but I did not make it.
You were so eager to join.
I was so eager to join that uniform. I really liked it.
After this initial disappointment, he decided to train as a teacher, though this was not his real passion.
1977, I went to Teachers Training College, Igoji. 1979, after completion of my P1 course, I was posted to Kitui. Kitui South, Mutomo. And since there was a lot of challenge, I think I decided to quit.
Teaching, because you did,
teaching.
Your heart was not there.
My heart was not in teaching so well. I could not fathom remaining in that profession. One time, I had decided to quit. I came to Nairobi. Through Nairobi, my brother was there. And this man told me, do you know what? Do you know the army is recruiting teachers? Told me, are you ready? I take you there. So he took me to army headquarters. Immediately, we got to the gate. There was a tall officer, as tall as me.
Yeah.
He said, yes, this is the type of person we wanted. I was enlisted in the army. That was 1981, September 30th.
This opening would mark the first start to his long and distinguished military career.
We went for training. We went to, it was a big group of education instructors, 5K Gilgil. That is where we trained. And then after training, I was posted to Nanyuki, 1K, 1981. When you have a P1 certificate, you'd come out as a corporal. After 6 months, you'll be promoted to the next rank, which is a sergeant. After some other 1 or 2 years, you'll be promoted like that. May 15, 1991, I was promoted to warrant officer class 1. After 21 years, 2000, I was posted at the brigade headquarters, which is just next, adjacent to the unit, the brigade headquarters. I stayed in brigade headquarters for about 5 years. I was posted to 15 KR, which is in Mombasa. 15 KR, I remained there for about 2 years, up to 2009, 2007 to 2009. 2010, I was posted to Isiolo 78 Tank Battalion. And that is the place I spent my last years in the forces. In 2014, I exited from the military.
The veteran enumerates some of the duties he had as an education instructor.
The entry point was an education instructor.
Yes.
Yes, my core job was to educate the soldier. Not only on navigation, not only on map reading, even on methods of instructions, even on pillars of training, even on current affairs, and so many other things. A warrant officer, even to the eyes of the commanders, any warrant officer is an administrator. One discipline of the soldiers, all of them, it doesn't matter who and who, because you have to be a model of very good discipline. So when you see soldiers messing up, it is your duty to correct that.
He was among soldiers on a United Nations mission to secure peace in Sierra Leone during their civil war under the command of former Lieutenant General Daniel Opande.
I got a chance to serve in the United Nations peacekeeping, Kenbat 8 in Sierra Leone. We did quite a commendable job when we were there. Hali ilikuwa inaitwa Magibotonzo. It was a notorious area of those, the Western boys. They were called the Western boys. They were under their commander who was CC. He was called CC. One thing I liked is that time General Opande was the force commander. And that general is both courageous and very intelligent, because he cornered them in a way until they accepted to come and sit down and talk. We were also involved in the coordination of even the NGOs who wanted to come and give assistance.
Njagi credits the forces for the many skills he gained, which has made him an astute person, especially on mediation.
What I had learned in the military, it really assisted me. Kwanza ufumilivu. To add to all this, I am also a counselor. Okay? So when you combine what you learned in the military and what you are doing and the people, the type of people you're handling, you love it. The parish minister stood and said, Elder Jagi, from today, you are the chairman in that congregation. And I want it to be streamlined. If I didn't have skills of handling
and leadership as well,
and leadership, I would not have done anything. The time I went there, wengine wakaanza kusema sasa tumeletewa muskari hapa tutakuwa commanded na kadhalika. But you, because you understand all that, with humility and love, you show them the right way. And you become an example. If there was a misquandering of finances, you don't partake to such. You show it right way, the rightfulness.
As an educationist, he highly values education. He is still a student and a counselor.
Yeah, and I'm quite encouraged by the fact that even in retirement, you're still continuing with education.
I attained my diploma in guidance as counseling, which is academic. I went further and enrolled for a degree course in Christian counseling. And right now, I am pursuing my master's.
Njagi reminds soldiers to take advantage of the many opportunities provided by the forces to improve themselves and their careers.
Let them take up the chance and start organizing themselves. Retirement, you start retiring immediately you are employed. You have to plan yourself, otherwise utapulaniwa. You choose to kujinyima, enjoy the benefits.
Many soldiers are forced by the nature of their work to be away from their families for long durations. Officer Njagi acknowledges the instrumental role his family and especially his wife played over the years.
1982, that is the time we started living together with my wife, our first daughter, who is working now in the bank. The second one is also a daughter. She is in Air Emirates. The third one, he is working as a dental surgeon in Nairobi. If it were not for the mother of those children, we would not be where we are. Yeah, she has been a teacher. She has been actually a pillar to support us where we are, even the children.
Njagi is still very active in various engagements to keep himself busy. Having served in a peace mission, he gives a word of advice to Kenyans on peace and prosperity.
The refugees we have had here in Kenya from those surrounding countries, let us work for peace. When we play politics, let us not play politics of hate. Let us not bring hatred amongst the societies. And whatever we do, let us be considerate to one another as Kenyans. Let us love one another. Let us shun tribalism. Let's look at Kenyans as Kenyans. And we shall have a good country. And this will make Kenya be great.
Thank you so much for your story. For welcoming us. Thank you.
As an active farmer, Njagi takes me through one of his farms close to his home, which he actively tends to. And as we wrap up the visit, without doubt, this veteran stands tall to his principles and values, all thanks to the military. For Military Tales, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Audiovisual Rights Society of Kenya wants the Music Copyright Society of Kenya probed over their alleged misappropriation of 56 million shillings meant for artists. Speaking in Nairobi, the organization led by its board chair, Eduardo Waigwa, also sought a formal clarification from the Kenya Copyright Board on the presence of other collective management organizations purportedly collecting royalties beyond those affiliated to PAVRIS.
Reports that some 56 million shillings meant for artists had been misappropriated at the Music Copyright Society of Kenya has attracted the wrath of the Performing and Audiovisual Rights Society of Kenya. The organization, led by its board chair Eduardo Waigwa, wants the Director of Criminal Investigations to promptly investigate the claims.
52 million is supposed to be distributed to our musicians. And I challenge even the DCI, because ever since it's been 2 weeks, I've not had any arrest, or we've not had any follow-up of that. Well, our young men and our artists are actually suffering, and here we are reporting that 52 million is lost. So I'm requesting the chairman to come out clean right now and let the investigation start with immediate effect.
The organization has also urged the Kenya Copyright Board to deal with other collective management organizations purportedly collecting royalties beyond those allocated to them.
Kitambo kulikuwa na tutaweza waita wakora. Wanaenda wanaokota pesa wakijifanya hao wako kwa CMO.
In light of the recent development, we as Melta would like to request formal clarification from the Copyright Board, that is Kikopo, Chairman, regarding the presence of other collective management organizations, CMOs, that are purportedly collecting royalty beyond those affiliated with Pavix. We believe that such clarity is essential to ensure that all stakeholders, including our members, are well informed and comply with the legal appointed CMO for regulatory requirements.
It also invited stakeholders, including artists, content creators, and government agencies, to hold constructive talks aimed at ensuring artists are fully compensated for their work. Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
Now, a family in South Mugirango constituency, Kisii County, is in fear that they were allegedly attacked and they would be allegedly attacked and their homestead torched by unknown assailants. The family has sought refuge at Nyamarambe police station and is calling on government to intervene. This and more in our county news roundup.
The attack is said to have arisen from a domestic dispute over an access path on the family farm, which they claim is not for public use.
Sahi watoto wangu duko nje, tulienda kwa serikali na tunapokuwa kwa serikali wanatuambia tutoke pale kwa station ili tutoke tuende. Tuliwaambia tunaenda wapi? Sasa waliwaambia sasa nyinyi mnataka nakimbilia criminal. Sasa nyinyi nieli muende mtoke muende mtafute mahali mtaenda, mtafute marafiki zenu ili mkae pale.
That's what we are heading.
Elsewhere, human rights activists and members of the public in Siaya County have challenged the government to come up with measures that will put to an end the dumping of bodies along River Yala days after a body was retrieved from the river.
We are saying that a time has come that they should come out and make sure that the security of the people around Riala, and also to come out very clearly to tell us what is happening.
Depending on... And the National Assembly Trade Committee has taken issue with the Treasury for failing to prioritize state agencies under the Ministry of Cooperatives that are key in economic transformation. Led by Chairperson James Gakuya, the MPs grilled Treasury officials for underfunding processing zones, county aggregation centres and the Co-Future Fund. Treasury, however, maintains the underfunding was due to shortfalls in revenue collection.
The Co-Future Fund had an allocation of Kenya shillings 4 billion in FY 2023-2024, but it's only received a net checker funding amounting to Kenya shillings 500 million. What was the rationale?
Overall, exchequer position for the year ended 23-24 was characterized by shortfall in revenue collection and financing, as well as huge debt obligations, and therefore the delay in funding key projects across the MDAs.
In Elgeyo Marakwet, a section of leaders and residents have called on the government to expedite the construction of several stalled projects within the county.
Have stalled for the last 12 years since they were constructed. We have 6 institutions that have not been completed.
Transport along the Mombasa-Nairobi highway was paralyzed at Makindu Township for 3 hours on Tuesday after dozens of boda-boda operators blocked the road to protest the killing of one of their own in unclear circumstances.
Tumeweza kumpoteza kijana ambaye alikuwa ametegemewa katika familia, na ni kijana ambaye tulikuwa tunatarajia mengi kutoka kwake. Hakuwa msumbufu. Kwa hiyo kama familia tumepoteza kijana mchanga.
Finally, the Machakos County government has distributed assorted equipment to individuals and groups in a move aimed at boosting small businesses across the county.
Tumeshukuru sana na tunaambia hata vikundi vingine viendelee na kushikana na gavana wetu aweze naye kusaidia hao vikundi vingine navyo viweze kupata kama sisi.
Kasi Chanamasha, Prime Edition.
From the counties back to the studio to take a short break. We'll be back. Stay.
ni zawadi za kila wiki, 100,000 kila wiki, 250,000 kila wiki. Uamuzi ni wako. Sasa Lotomoto kwenye holiday bonanza hii inakuletea game mpya kupitia *570# option 4 na ujishindie up to 250,000 Kenyan shillings ukiwa nyumbani, na draw ni ya kila wiki, na kupata tikiti yako ni kupitia *570# pekee option 4, na tikiti yako ikitufikia inaingia ndani ya drum.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Well, I trust that you've had a wonderful day. We take a look at the day's business news. My name is Weri Mujenga. Now, an underwriting facility has been established to mitigate the risks associated with early-stage geothermal energy exploration. Supported by East African insurers and independent power producers, the $2 million facility aims to de-risk investments in renewable energy by covering the significant upfront costs and the risk of drilling geothermal wells that may prove commercially unviable. Kenya possesses an estimated 10,000 megawatts of geothermal potential, but the country has barely tapped into this resource, with only about 950 megawatts currently installed. As Kenya strives to achieve 100% clean energy by 2030, with geothermal energy playing a central role, early-stage risks and high upfront costs associated with geothermal drilling have deterred many investors.
Past what we have the capacity to cover above the ground risks, the installations, the EAR, and also all other associated coverages. That has been de-risked for a long time. The gap has been what coverage to give below the ground during the exploration.
In response, the Ministry of Energy and Industrialization, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, FSD Africa, and East African insurers have launched a geothermal risk underwriting facility. This initiative aims to mitigate financial risks, thereby facilitating the early-stage development of geothermal energy projects in Kenya. This facility is designed to empower local insurance to develop insurance products that attract investment into the region's geothermal energy sector.
We need around $600 billion to actually get to net zero and energy transition and meet our current energy gap.
We'll be able to attract more investors into this area, and they're most likely going to put in funds to explore this particular type of energy.
Now, the United Kingdom has reduced checks and inspection fees for some Kenyan horticultural produce in efforts to boost exports. Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Salim Mboya says in the spirit of reciprocity, Kenya is reducing the import duty of whiskey from the United Kingdom from 35% to 25%.
Kenya exported vegetables and fruits worth 20.3 billion shillings in the months of January, February and March this year to the United Kingdom, which was an increase of 1.5% as compared to the same period in 2023. Kenya is optimistic that horticulture exports will increase for the rest of this year after the UK reduced the inspection rate of some produce from 10% to 5%.
You receive goods or products from another country, you have to subject them to inspection, which had been pegged to 10%, now is 5%.
Snowpeas joins Kenya cut flour as produce with less checks in the UK market after Kenya increased its pesticide surveillance on horticulture destined for key markets.
Flowers which are exported from Kenya to Britain but going through the EU, and there was a 10% tariff applied to that, where we've now brought that down for a 2-year period at least to zero.
Flowers is zero. I think the 10% is snowpeas, which now has gone back down to 5%.
UK investors have pledged to build a 1.3 billion shillings macadamia and cashew nuts processing facility in Lamu to boost exports and create jobs. Benson Drioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya attracted nearly a third of startup capital destined to Africa during the first 6 months of this year. This is according to Africa Arena CEO Christophe Vianud, who says that over $200 million that startups in Kenya netted was channeled to climate tech, renewable energy, and the green economy.
We obviously welcome, started from different sectors, the fintech space and those on climate and all of that. And then the goal is to make sure that we provide them the tools and the resources that they need, for them to scale.
So we have the opportunity to harness the sun and harness the wind to be able to fuel the growth of our continent. So we're investing in things like virtual power plants, in grid optimization, in grid efficiency. So these are ways to help unlock natural resources within Africa through startups and through innovation.
Africa has made a small contribution to that with its efforts since 2017. We have had over 400 startups running through our program over the years, and we've enabled over $850 million of deals. We should have 15, 20, $30 billion of VC coming to the continent. That's our next goal. It's probably going to take us another 10, 15 years, but we can make it. That's what Africa needs to really bridge the gap with the other ecosystems and have enough capital to fuel startups.
Now, Equity Group is working with various institutions to support farmers, boost agricultural production, enhance access to markets as well as technology and financial services. This is part of the lenders' sustainability drive that Equity Group Managing Director James Mwangi says has impacted over 3.8 million small-scale farmers and supported over 292,000 micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in the agriculture sector.
Have led us now to have an integrated approach, not a silo approach. And when you have an integrated approach, it becomes easy to work together. We are aligning our thoughts, our actions, and in the process, we are becoming a great force for change. Equity is doing its part. If you do your part, then the aggregate of our initiatives will be able to change the world.
Accordingly, therefore, corporate sustainability should become the norm and play a greater and more systematic role in contributing to the attainment of wealth creation, social justice, and climate mitigation. As such, transnational corporations such as Equity Group have indeed a unique opportunity and somehow a duty.
That story brings to a close business news for tonight. On the other end of the studio, we have Bernard Okumu with the day's sports. My name is Ori Mujenga. See you tomorrow.
Harambee Stars will kick off their 2025 AFCON qualifiers campaign with a match against Zimbabwe on Friday 6th at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Kampala, Uganda at 4 p.m. Engine Firat then face Namibia on Tuesday 10th September at the Orlando Stadium in Johannesburg, South Africa at 7 p.m. Catch the matches live on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. As the 2024 Paralympic Games continue, Team Kenya has represented the country with a contingent of 14 para-athletes and 7 guides, featuring in 5 disciplines: athletics, cycling, taekwondo, rowing, and powerlifting, battling for glory with the world's best. Catch the daily highlights on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Thank you for joining us. Time for sports with me, Bernard Okumu. And let's begin with soccer, where Sports Tech Africa, in partnership with Strathmore University, will hold a sports conference on the 16th and 17th of October to enlighten sports federations across the country on ways to take sports to another level. Sports Tech Africa noted that Kenyan sports must adopt to technology in order to transform into a multi-million shillings industry.
According to the Sports Tech Africa co-founder Kerubo Momanyi, sports stakeholders are in a better place to move their teams from low-income clubs and make a lot of resources through the modern technology.
We have the greatest athletes. If you read The Gold Mine Effect by Rasmus Anderson, he talks about the gold mine effect. We have the North Rift that has produced the best athletes in the world consistently for decades.
His words were echoed by AFC Leopards chairperson Dan Shikanda, who maintained that the conference will bring together various sports stakeholders, including government officials, sports federations, private sector, athletes and the media, to give their views and ideas of promoting sports through technology.
What happens to the 99? What happens to the 90? Do they remain disillusioned? What are we doing about it? And we have to set up programs that go outside of the actual field sports.
The conference, organized by Sports Tech in partnership with Strathmore University, will be held from 16th to 17th of October at the Strathmore University. In addition, the 2-day conference will feature keynote speeches by experts, breakout sessions, as well as demonstrations, exhibitions of the latest sports technologies. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
And the 5th round of the 2024 National Sevens Circuit, the Driftwood Sevens, has received a sponsorship boost of 3 million shillings from Kenya Breweries Limited. Now, the tournament will take place at the Mombasa Sports Club this weekend. Kenya Rugby Union Commercial Director Harriet Okach said the sponsorship will play a crucial role in ensuring the success of the event, and fans can look forward to a memorable tournament this year. Kenya Harlequins currently tops the 2024 National Sevens Circuit with 75 points, while Kabras RFC is placed second with 73 points. KCB, Menengai Oilers and Catholic Monks complete the top 5 teams on the log. To athletics now, where Athletics Kenya is planning to open more youth camps across the country, a move aimed at nurturing young athletes and smooth transition from youth level to senior. Now, AK Youth Development Director Barnabas Korir said the Federation is working closely with the Ministry of Sports to have feeder programs for senior teams. Korir commended Team Kenya after finishing 6th overall at the just concluded World Athletics Under-20 Championship in Lima, Peru, where Kenya collected 7 medals, 3 gold, 3 silver and 1 bronze. Meanwhile, preparations is complete ahead of the 3rd edition of the Nairobi Marathon set for Sunday. Over 9,000 participants have registered for the 4 categories. That's the 42-kilometer race, 21-kilometer race, 10-kilometer and 5-kilometer races. The event will start at and end at Nyayo National Stadium, with the half marathon being run along the expressway.
They are very young. In comparison to the others, is, we are on the right track to ensure that the right athletes are participating during the championship. And that is the trend that we want. And we want any other country also to make sure that when we send athletes under 20, it must be under 20. This marathon is basically for the support of our own athletes. We have major marathons outside the countries. Few athletes are invited to go and compete there, not all of them, only the top ones. But then we have huge numbers of Kenyan athletes who are competing in marathon, and they don't have opportunities. And the government said, okay, let us pay good money Number 1 to number 20. Number 1 is 3,500,000, and the last one, which is number 20, is 30,000.
Well, that does it for sports at this lovely night. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bernardo. Come back to Mboya to bring the curtains down on Prime Edition this lovely Tuesday.
Thank you, Bernardo Kochokumu. Well, it's a wrap on tonight's edition, and I want to just take a moment to salute an incredible team behind the scenes. Willie Muhika, Sarah Stanley, Joel Muna, Faith Waswa, and Rose Chalo, and of course the larger team. So I want to thank you all for making it happen night after night. From all of us here at Prime Edition, it's good evening, and I'm going to leave you with an interview that my colleague JJ Kioria had with the Principal Secretary, Labor and Skills Development, and the topic of conversation that they had was resolution of labor disputes. Right. From Nairobi, Kenya.
Ngolo Mwadime, the Principal Secretary in charge of Labor and Skills Development. Thank you very much, PS, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with you explaining to us what is the mandate of the State Department for Labor and Skills Development.
Right. The mandate is pretty wide because, as you well know, this is a ministry that has been in existence even before independence. So we deal with all matters labor within the country in terms of ensuring that Kenyan workers work in a safe environment, and therefore we have the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health, and also to ensure that they are paid what is due to them in terms of the skills that they have, so that, you know, we don't have disguised unemployment in the sense that people have skills that are not utilized to the maximum in the enterprises where they work, and they are not paid also commensurate to the skills that they have. So we have the Labor Commissioner and her team that is in charge of that. We also do labor market research to see where there are gaps, because many a times employers tell us that the kind of graduates we produce do not match their expectations, and therefore the need to continuously do an analysis, you know, in terms of the expectations of the market and the kind of graduates that we produce. Then we also have skills development, which was a fully fledged State Department during the Uhuru administration, but it is a directorate as it is currently in my ministry. Then we have the newest directorate, which is labor migration, owing to the fact that we're looking for opportunities abroad. So it's a very, very wide, you know, mandate that we have as a State Department, taking in consideration all matters concerning Kenyan workers, laborers in Kenya.
We've had teachers and aviation workers threatening to strike. Question is, what is the role of the State Department in terms of dealing with these strikes?
We have done the best that we can. You must appreciate that the economic situation that we are facing currently is very wanting, both for the employers and the employees. You know, we do understand that employees are suffering. Yeah, the situation is not such that they can be comfortable in terms of meeting their needs. But you must remember also, enterprises, you know, have to maximize on profit. Enterprises are established to maximize on profit, and they too have been complaining. Yeah, and you've seen the agitation that has been there over time. So the fiscal space as it is currently is what is causing all this trouble that you see all over. The unions coming up and saying, hey, look, there is need for, you know, their members, their environment that they work in, and also the pay that they receive to become a little bit better. Now, as government, we have tried the best that we can. You saw that the CS, the newly appointed Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Alfred Mutua, had a meeting with the Kenya National Union of Teachers, for example, had a meeting with KUPPET, even had a meeting with the Secretary General Kotu to sit with them and try to convince them that this may not be the right time, really, for Kenyan workers to go on strike. The situation is very wanting for all of us. And you've seen also the agitation by the Gen Zs saying, you know, unemployment is extremely high. They don't want taxes to be increased. And therefore, the role of the ministry is to be a conciliator bring together these two warring parties. Make this party understand the situation the way it is for the employees, and here we are talking of the employers, but also make the employees also understand that the situation as it is currently is very wanting. Yeah.
Kenya prides itself that one of its biggest resources is human resource capital. Question is, how well trained is that human resource capital?
The brand that we have of Kenyan labor is superb. I can say that with a lot of confidence. We have young people who are, very well trained. Those who graduate from universities, for example, but also those who graduate from TVETs. Kenyans are on high demand in the international labor market. There is no question about it. But is there a need for us to reskill, to upskill? Yes, it's an absolute yes. Why? Because the environment keeps on changing. Yeah? And therefore, as I said earlier on, we continuously conduct market research to see where there are gaps. And indeed, I must confess, many a times our employers in Kenya raise issues concerning the graduates that we are producing, and we address the same with Ministry of Education, because when we conduct research, the recommendations that we come up with inform curriculum. So if there is need for curriculum to be changed to reflect what the employers expect, we do that. We work very closely with Ministry of Education. But the Kenyan brand is highly demanded. I can say that with confidence because we have signed bilateral labor agreements with some foreign countries. The biggest example I can give is UK on medical practitioners or nurses, Kenyan nurses are highly trained and they're on high demand all over, in Europe, Australia, in UK, in Ireland, and the rest of the Western European countries. They regard our nurses very highly. But we have gone a step further as it is. The bilateral labor agreement that we're going to sign with Germany in the next 2 weeks or so, on the 13th of September, actually 3 weeks, will also take into consideration the need for doctors to go and work in Germany. Yeah? They have already done their market analysis of the kind of brand that we have. They came over and did that analysis even before we began negotiations, on the bilateral labor agreement, and realized that we have the experts who can be able to fill in the vacancies that are opening up in Germany. Not only that, IT. Our young people are IT savvy, extremely IT savvy.
Critics that argue, PS, that jobs should be created locally, and particularly the Gen Z, you've seen them say, we don't want to work outside the country, we want to work in the country.
The unemployment rate in Kenya is extremely high. Out of 1 million graduates that we produce every year, and I'm talking of, graduates from primary, graduates from secondary school, graduates from universities, graduates from colleges, our economy is only able to absorb 200,000. And I'm talking of both the public and the private sector. So where will 800,000 end up? On the streets, tarmacking, being idle, and these are active young people. Now, the reality is there are models that we are emulating. There are countries that were at the same level where we are currently about 20, 30 years ago, who experienced the same challenge that we are experiencing currently. South Korea, for example. They sent their young people to Japan, to work in Japan, to work in Saudi Arabia. They came back with technology as it was then, came back with it to the country, and they were able to produce goods of the same quality as where they had migrated to work in.
How are you dealing with errant bureaus?
We don't want young Kenyans to be duped in whichever way. And we have gone out and, spoken very clearly and loudly, actually from the rooftop, that any Kenyan who wants to access a job in the international labor market must go to the NEA website, National Employment Authority, www.neaims.go That is the National Employment Authority Integrated Management System.
Some of these countries offering these job opportunities, even when confirmed by our envoys or ambassadors, have a record of human rights violations. So much so that if a Kenyan hears there are opportunities in those countries, they would say, no, I'm keeping off because that country has a record of human rights violations. How are you engaging those countries to deal with the record of human rights violations?
We are renegotiating new BLAs, new bilateral labor agreements with some of these countries that are human rights based. So any Kenyan migrating to this country, their interests must be safeguarded through the bilateral labor agreement. The issues of passports being confiscated, the issues of working 7 days a week, for nearly a whole day, will be addressed by these BLAs. But we have gone further and deployed labor attaches, Kenyan government workers whose mandate is to ensure that our Kenyan workers abroad, their interests are taken care of. So that Kenyan workers abroad can reach out to these government officers easily in case they find themselves in distressing situations. So we have labor attaches.
Peace, as we wind up, there's a general reliance on yourself and indeed the government to create jobs in the country. What is your promise to Kenyans tonight?
My promise to Kenya is we are doing our very best to ensure that the economy expands within. The economy will expand gradually in terms of the strategies that we have put in place, because these are very, very aggressive strategies. So yes, there are going to be job opportunities going forward. Let me give you an appropriate example. The SME sector, the Juakali, the informal sector, the loans that we are giving out, through the Hustler Fund, the Youth Enterprise Fund, we are trying to encourage these enterprises, small enterprises, to grow and become big enterprises, to be able to employ even more Kenyans. So we are doing our level best. But in the meantime, as we send Kenyans abroad, as they remit that which they are able to get abroad, and they come and invest in our country, gradually with time, maybe in the next 3, 4, 5 years, or at the maximum, we will see an exponential expansion of our economy. Kenyans who will be graduating then will be absorbed within our economy.
Of course, we've been speaking to the Principal Secretary of the State Department for Labor and Skills Development, that is Shadrach Mwangolo Mwadime, who's really highlighted what the ministry is doing to deal, one, with strikes that are impending, and of course, indeed, the bigger responsibility being to create jobs, be it in the country or outside. This is where we put a cap. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Siamini. Amini usiamini, Holiday Bonanza ni ya kila mtu na zawadi zitakufikia mahali popote. Dial *570#, chagua option 4 na zawadi